Every life is a story, every moment a chapter. Here on Slow English Stories, we pause to listen.
In a small town, on a street that smelled of rain and wood smoke, there was a little shop.
The shop belonged to a shoemaker.
It was a dark and quiet place, with just one room for his work and another small room for him and his wife to live.
The air in the workshop always carried the same smells. The sharp, clean scent of leather, the sweet smell of beeswax, and the cold dust that danced in the single beam of light from the window.
The shoemaker was a good man.
He was honest and his hands were skilled.
For many years, he had made the best shoes in the town.
People would come from far away to buy his work.
But times had changed.
Big factories in the city now made shoes quickly and cheaply.
Fewer and fewer people came to his little shop.
Day by day, the shoemaker and his wife grew poorer.
It was not his fault.
He worked just as hard as before.
His stitches were just as strong.
But the world had moved on, and he felt it was leaving him behind.
One cold evening, the shoemaker sat at his workbench.
The fire in the small hearth was low, and the shadows in the room were long and deep.
He looked at the small pile of coins on the table.
It was not enough.
It was not enough for food, or for the rent, or for more leather.
He looked at his wife.
She sat quietly by the fire, her face pale in the dim light.
She did not complain, but he could see the worry in her eyes.
He looked down at his hands.
They were strong hands, but they were empty.
He had sold his last pair of shoes that morning.
Now he had nothing left in the world but a single piece of leather.
It was just enough to make one more pair of shoes.
He took the leather in his hands.
It was a beautiful piece, smooth and dark like rich earth.
He remembered buying it in better times, saving it for a special customer.
Now it was all he had.
With a heavy heart, he lit a candle and placed it on his workbench.
The small flame pushed back the darkness.
He picked up his sharpest knife.
The metal was cold in his hand.
Slowly and carefully, he began to cut the leather.
The sound of the knife was a soft whisper in the quiet room.
He cut the pieces for the top of the shoe, the part called the upper.
He cut the pieces for the strong bottom, the sole.
His movements were slow and perfect.
He had done this thousands of times.
Even now, with so little hope, he worked with care.
He was a craftsman.
It was who he was.
When he was finished, all the pieces for one pair of shoes lay on the bench.
They were perfectly cut, ready to be sewn together.
But the shoemaker was too tired.
His body was tired from hunger, and his spirit was tired from worry.
He could not work any more tonight.
He looked at the pieces of leather, a silent promise of a shoe that was not yet made.
He blew out the candle.
The room fell into darkness.
He went to his wife, and together they went to their small, cold bed.
Before he closed his eyes, he said a quiet prayer.
He did not ask for riches.
He only asked for help, for a way to continue his work.
Then, with a clear conscience, he fell asleep.
The next morning, the sun rose, weak and pale.
The shoemaker woke up.
He said his morning prayers as he always did.
Then he went into his workshop.
He walked to his bench, ready to begin the sad work of making his very last pair of shoes.
But when he looked at the bench, he stopped.
He blinked his eyes.
He thought perhaps he was still dreaming.
The pieces of leather were gone.
In their place, standing perfectly on the dark wood, was a finished pair of shoes.
He moved closer.
He could not believe what he was seeing.
The shoes were beautiful.
They were more than beautiful. They were a masterpiece.
He picked them up.
The leather was soft and warm in his hands.
He looked at the stitches.
They were so small, so perfect, that he could barely see them.
Every single stitch was in its right place.
There was not one mistake.
It was the work of a master, better than anything he could ever make himself.
He called for his wife.
She came into the workshop, and when she saw the shoes, her eyes grew wide with wonder.
"Who did this?" she whispered.
The shoemaker shook his head.
He had no answer.
He only knew that it was a miracle.
Soon after, the little bell on the shop door rang.
A rich man came in.
He saw the shoes on the counter, and his face lit up with admiration.
"I have never seen such fine shoes," he said.
He tried them on, and they fit perfectly, as if they were made just for him.
He was so pleased that he paid the shoemaker double the usual price.
The shoemaker held the coins in his hand.
There were so many.
It was more money than he had seen in months.
His heart was full of gratitude.
He did not know who to thank, but he was thankful.
With the money, he went out and bought food for his wife.
He bought wood for the fire.
And he bought enough leather to make 2 new pairs of shoes.
That evening, he felt a new energy, a new hope.
He sat at his workbench and carefully cut the leather for 2 pairs of shoes.
He laid all the pieces out, just as he had done the night before.
He was tired, but it was a good kind of tired.
He said his prayers and went to bed, his mind full of questions and wonder.
When he woke the next morning, he hurried to his workshop.
And there, on his bench, stood 2 pairs of finished shoes.
They were just as perfect as the first pair.
The stitches were flawless, the leather polished to a beautiful shine.
That day, 2 wealthy customers came to the shop.
They bought the shoes immediately and paid a very high price.
The shoemaker now had enough money to buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes.
And so it continued.
Every evening, the shoemaker would carefully cut the leather and leave the pieces on his workbench.
And every morning, he would find the work already done.
For pairs of shoes became 8.
8 pairs became 16.
The little shop was no longer dark and empty.
It was filled with the finest shoes in the land.
Customers came every day.
The shoemaker and his wife were no longer poor.
Their pantry was full, the fire was always warm, and the worry had finally left their faces.
The shoemaker worked hard every day, buying the best leather and cutting it with all his skill.
But the magical, final work was always done by unseen hands in the quiet of the night.
He was becoming a wealthy man, but he never forgot that his good fortune was a gift.
Months passed and winter arrived.
The town was covered in a soft blanket of snow.
The air was crisp and cold, and the festive season of Christmas was near.
One evening, the shoemaker and his wife sat by their warm fire.
The shop was closed for the day.
The shoemaker had just finished cutting out the leather for many new shoes.
He laid the pieces on his bench.
But tonight he did not go straight to bed.
He turned to his wife.
"My dear," he said, his voice quiet.
"We are so fortunate.
"We have everything we need."
But we still do not know who is helping us."
"We have never thanked them."
His wife nodded.
"I think about it every day," she said.
"They have made us rich."
"We must find out who they are so we can show them how grateful we are."
The shoemaker had an idea.
"What if we stay up tonight?" he suggested.
"What if we hide and watch?"
"We can finally see who it is that lends us this helping hand."
His wife loved the idea.
Her eyes sparkled with excitement.
So they made a plan.
They left the workshop door unlocked.
They lit a single, small candle and placed it in a corner where its light was soft and low.
Then they found a hiding place.
In another corner of the room, a large wardrobe stood against the wall.
They hid behind it, leaving a small space so they could see the workbench.
The workshop was silent.
The only sounds were the soft crackle of the fire in the other room and the quiet ticking of the old clock on the wall.
They waited.
An hour passed.
Then another.
The shoemaker and his wife did not speak.
They barely breathed.
They just watched, their hearts full of anticipation.
The clock began to strike midnight.
1,
2.
3.
With each chime, the air in the room seemed to grow thicker with magic.
When the 12th chime faded into silence, they heard a tiny sound.
The shop door creaked open.
But they saw no one enter.
Then, out of the shadows, two little figures appeared.
They were tiny men, no taller than the shoemaker's knee.
They were completely naked, with smooth skin and bright, curious eyes.
They moved with a quick, silent grace, like moonbeams dancing on the floor.
The shoemaker and his wife held their breath.
They could not believe their eyes.
The two little men hopped up onto the workbench.
They sat down and looked at the pieces of leather.
Then, without a word, they began to work.
Their little fingers moved so fast they were just a blur.
One took a tiny needle and began to stitch.
The other took a small hammer and began to tap the soles.
They stitched and sewed and hammered with such skill and speed that the shoemaker was filled with astonishment.
He was a master of his craft, but he had never seen anything like this.
The little men worked together perfectly, without a single wasted movement.
In what seemed like only a few moments, all the shoes were finished.
They stood in a perfect row on the bench, shining in the candlelight.
The little men looked at their work, gave a quick nod, and then, as silently as they had come, they hopped off the bench and ran out of the door, disappearing into the night.
For a long time, the shoemaker and his wife stayed in their hiding place.
They were too amazed to move.
Finally, they came out and walked to the bench.
They looked at the perfectly made shoes, and then they looked at each other.
Their hearts were overflowing with wonder and gratitude.
The next morning, the wife said, "Those little men have made us rich."
We must do something to thank them.
It is a cold winter, and they have nothing on.
They must be freezing when they run about at night.
Her voice was full of kindness.
I have an idea, she continued.
I will make them some clothes.
I will sew them little shirts and coats and vests and trousers.
And I will knit them each a pair of warm stockings.
She looked at her husband.
And you, she said, you are the best shoemaker in the world.
You could make them each a tiny pair of shoes.
The shoemaker's face broke into a wide smile.
That is a wonderful idea, he said.
I will be very glad to do it.
And so they began their own secret work.
The wife took out her finest cloth and softest wool.
She sewed the tiny clothes with stitches as neat and careful as the ones she had seen the little men make.
The shoemaker went to his bench.
He chose his best piece of soft leather.
He did not work for money now.
He worked out of love.
He cut and stitched and hammered, crafting 2 pairs of shoes so small they could fit in the palm of his hand.
They were perfect in every way, the best work he had ever done.
They worked for many days.
Finally, one evening, everything was ready.
The little shirts and coats were folded neatly.
The tiny stockings were rolled up.
And the 2 little pairs of shoes shone on the table.
That night, the shoemaker did not cut out any leather.
Instead, he and his wife carefully placed all their gifts on the workbench.
They arranged the little clothes and shoes in 2 neat piles.
Then, for the last time, they went to their hiding place behind the wardrobe and waited.
The clock struck midnight.
Just as before, the 2 little men came bounding into the room.
They were ready to get to work.
They hopped onto the bench, but they stopped in surprise.
There was no leather to be sewn.
Instead, they saw the beautiful little articles of clothing.
At first, they just stared, their heads tilted in confusion.
Then, one of them reached out a tiny finger and touched a soft wool coat.
A look of pure, intense delight spread across their faces.
With the greatest speed, they began to dress themselves.
They pulled on the little trousers and the shirts.
They put on the vests and the warm coats.
They slipped their feet into the soft stockings and then into the perfect little shoes.
The clothes fit them exactly.
They looked at each other, and then they looked down at themselves, admiring their fine new outfits.
They were no longer naked little spirits of the workshop.
They were 2 well-dressed little gentlemen.
And then a wonderful thing happened.
They began to sing.
Their voices were high and clear, like tiny silver bells.
They sang a happy little song.
Now we are boys, so fine to see.
Why should we longer cobblers be?
As they sang, they began to dance.
They danced and skipped all around the workshop.
They leaped over chairs and benches.
They spun on the tabletop.
Their hearts were full of joy, and their dance was a dance of freedom and thanks.
The shoemaker and his wife watched from their hiding place.
They felt a great happiness seeing the little men so delighted.
But they also felt a little sadness because they understood what the song meant.
Their work was done.
This was goodbye.
The little men danced their way across the room.
They danced right out of the shop door and into the street, where the snow was falling softly.
The shoemaker and his wife ran to the window.
They watched as the two tiny figures danced away down the moonlit street, their happy song fading into the quiet of the winter night.
Then they were gone.
The little men never came back.
But the shoemaker and his wife did not need their help anymore.
From that time on, everything the shoemaker did was successful.
His business prospered.
His shoes were famous for their quality, and he always had enough work.
He and his wife lived a long and happy life, full of comfort and peace.
And they never, ever forgot the two kind little elves who had come to them in their time of need, and who had danced away into the snow, leaving behind a gift of lasting good fortune.